Yeah, so if someone is coming to Brazil newly, or as a visitor, or as a tourist,
As a tourist.
a visitor to stay,
Okay.
to have a life there, what should the person expect aside the good side?
So bad things.
Yeah.
So I think it depends from where you are in the world. You have for sure different perspectives when you arrive in Brazil and in any other country. Coming from Europe, for example, to Brazil, you cannot expect that much freedom and safety as you have here, and that's one of the main reasons I don't go back to Brazil to live at this time of my life. So yeah, if you are a woman especially, you need to be really careful. Of course, it's some specific parts of the country, of the cities, that you need to be even more careful. But in general, you need to be careful with your belongings, like with your cell phone. You cannot just go around using Google Maps always. Sometimes something bad can happen. For example, me, I love to do hikings, and in Brazil I don't feel really safe doing hikings everywhere alone. I could do it, of course I could do it, but I don't feel as safe as here in Europe, for example. Another thing is that the economy is not really well, so if you go to Brazil expecting to earn a lot of money to travel around, for example, this is not so easy. It's much easier, for example, to travel around in Europe or in other countries than to travel around in Brazil. Education also, it's another level of education that I felt a lot of difference when I moved from Brazil to Europe, to Portugal, for example.
All right. I think we will come to the education side. So for the meantime, how many countries have you traveled to? Both travel for a visit and stay. How many countries?
So I think in total, 21 countries without come to Brazil. Like if I come to Brazil, I've been in 22 countries, but I think outside of Brazil, 21 countries.
Can you tell me some of these countries?
Oh wow! I don't know if I will remember everything, but I've been
or better, so the continent you traveled to so far.
South America, Latin America. Then I have been to North America. I have been to Africa, to Asia, and Europe, and like Australia.
Oh, you've traveled around the world.
Kind of.
And so mainly you've stayed in Brazil, in Portugal,
Yeah.
Australia, and Africa. At least you've been in Africa for 6 months.
Yeah, like to live,
Yeah, so let's say
to have like a living experience.
Yes.
It was this, yes.
this form. What do we say is the difference in the cultural values as compared to, right? I mean, all the four you've been to. What do we say are the differences in culture?
Between all of them.
Yeah, you can box them up.
So I will maybe start from the beginning. Can I start from Brazil and then I say the different cultures?
I mean, yes.
So Australia for me is something more similar to Brazil in terms of people, but also there is a really big range of nationalities in Australia. So actually I was not that much with Australian people. I was more like with other nationalities, like I knew people from Japan, from Peru, from Brazil, from other places in Latin America. Yeah, Australia is really safe as Europe. The economy is good as Europe, for example. The food, I don't know, like I didn't felt that much a thing for Australian food. I missed Brazilian food. And then like Europe, but Australia I also have been only 6 months, so it was a short period. in Portugal, when I arrived in Portugal, I felt a lot of difference because I lived 5 years in Portugal, so there was some time. And in the beginning, I had like this relationship with Portugal that was like a love-hate relationship, because I really liked the experience of being more free to do my things, whatever I want, to go out at night, and I can go back alone if I want. It doesn't matter the time. Of course, you need to be careful, but it's not as Brazil that you need to be. Sometimes you cannot do this. Then the people was a bit something for me in the beginning, that I felt that was not so receptive, but they have only a different way of being that in the beginning when I arrived there, I didn't understand because I just arrived. But in the way I was learning that it was not a bad thing, it was just the way of being that is different from Brazil. The way of react to things, the way of speaking, the way of welcoming people, the way of talk is just different. It's not bad or more nicer or like anything. It's just different. Like because when I arrived, I thought in the beginning the problem was in me and I was doing something wrong, but no, like it was everything fine. So it was just a matter of adaptation. And the language in Portugal, we both speak Portuguese, but this is really different. Portuguese from Portugal and Portuguese from Brazil is really different. In the beginning I doesn't understand a lot of things. I remember my first math classes. There is math that I don't understand, and there is the language that was difficult. So I was really lost. But yeah, it's just a matter of adaptation in general. And like in education, the education too was different to move from a university in Brazil to a university in Portugal. I felt the lack, like the level was so higher in Portugal, so it was difficult to graduate there for me.
And then now Africa.
And then Africa, yes. Africa was a whole experience. Everything is so different, but I can connect at the same time so many things with Brazil. So yeah, first of all, to be clear, Africa was the dream of my life since I know my name.
Was that the first time you traveled to Africa?
I traveled before to Egypt with my parents, but it was more like a tourist thing, so I didn't have the full African experience.
Okay. So this time you traveled to Kenya?
This time I was in Kenya. I was there for 5 months to do a semester of my master's with a group of other students. And I can say the dream was very much achieved. I'm so happy about talking.
Why? So what was so different in Africa among all your travel experience? You believe that Africa was more or less like the dream place. What is so different?
What is so different?
Yeah.
Like I don't know if it was because I came to Europe and then I had this culture shock. Yeah. Maybe I would.
Okay.
Maybe I would have another view, perspective, and experience if I went like straight from Brazil to Africa, because they are more similar in things. But yeah, for me it was a shock. Like the education was, the level are really different too. Like if you compare Brazil.
Yeah, I think I'll come to the education
later.
To tell you all the levels, because it's
okay.
Yeah, much more.
So education is later.
Yeah, I'll talk about it. So among all the things you've learned from the different countries you travel to, what are some of the key values you wish that almost every country have got that value, like a common thing you think every country could have it from where you've learned them?
First of all, same opportunities for everyone. Like, because what I am doing right now is because I had opportunities that I know most of the people in the world doesn't have, and so that's something I wish it was for every country and for everyone. So I think this can link with economy and education. So yeah, these opportunities, I would say briefly, that's one of the main things. And
then,
also,
some of the cultural values you think you wish that it could be found in every culture.
cultural values.
Yeah, some of the cultural values you saw.
Uh,
You wish every continent.
in Africa, I felt a lot of like community. How can I say that? Like community values and community.
And there's a kind of strong family
Like
system.
help, like everyone helps each other, and I think this is something that is missed a lot in a lot of countries. Even like in Africa, but from people that was outside. I knew a family in Africa that was from Indonesia, and they really have a community there outside of Africa, just in Indonesia, and even they don't know each other, they help each other, they invite each other from their houses, they share things. And one experience that was really nice for me in Africa was Hamadan. I'm not Muslim, but in Hamadan I could see this community and collective mindset. And even I'm not Muslim and I was not doing Ramadan, people in streets just invite me to go with them and eat with them and share ideas and share things. And this for me was like, wow. Oh my God, I was not expecting that, and it's in my heart. I love it so much.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. I think that was not expected, but I think the community thing, a lot of people are talking about that. But what of a transfer from here? Some of the things you think, aside what you met in Africa, some of the things other countries, I mean like Africa, like Brazil, who have less opportunity, other things. What do you think they can learn from Europe?
I think one good thing would be for sure education, but this is like something that they have a lot to do with economy too.
No.
And also I would say to like invest more on science and kind of trust more in science, give more and trust more in scientists, and give more kind of opportunities to scientists to do their job.
Okay.
I think it's missing a lot also in Brazil, for sure.
Yeah, I think you've spoken enough about culture and your travels and your journey. You can focus on education now.
Let's talk about it.
How many countries have you schooled? The first one.
Like universities also?
Yep. Mixed
Okay,
up.
so when I was a child, I've been in 2 schools in Brazil.
So you schooled in Brazil?
Yeah, I did my like primary school and everything in Brazil, and I started my university in Brazil to do veterinary medicine course. And I did 2 years and a half of veterinary medicine course in Brazil, which is half of the full course. The full course in Brazil is 5 years. And then I went to study English in a university in Australia. I don't know if that counts or not because it was just.
Nice language.
And then I spent 4 years actually doing my graduation in Portugal, so the university in Portugal. And then I arrived in Tropimundo program that I studied in Belgium first semester, Kenya second semester, and now I am in Italy for the 3rd semester.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what would you say is the difference in educational levels were you shocked with some countries and the way they teach, they learn? Do you think that some countries are doing far better? Others did. What do you say about the educational systems in all these countries?
Yes, I was shocked in many levels when I arrived to Portugal. Sorry, they had, like, the teachers asked for some things that I never saw in my life. So they were like the level of high school education in Portugal was so much higher than in Brazil, and like I am really privileged to have a really nice education in Brazil. So that's a big gap. I felt a big gap in knowledge, like from myself, comparing to the Portuguese students or the people that studied outside of Brazil, for example. Yeah, so this is one thing for me. Was really difficult to get into it, you know, like to start to understand what they were saying, because they saw some things in high school that I never saw in my life. And I still feeling this gap, even though like I studied already, I graduated in Portugal, even though in this master's I feel this gap so much. For me it's really hard, being honest. And then in Kenya there was also another shock, like the university structure, like they have some structure there, but like the classes, like the infrastructure of the university by itself is already super different. But it's all about the economy, you know, like it's all about how much priority you give to schools and education and university. Like if you can put priority in university or school infrastructure, and what courses do you give, what importance do you give for each course that you give in the university or whatever. So yeah, the level in Africa was really lower than
As compared
even
to
than Brazil. Like if I compare,